Yeah, it's so rainy over here. So kunaweza kuwa na disturbance kidogo tu.
Watakuwa nasikia tu, siko kwa nyumba. Watakuwa nasikia.
Yeah, niko kwa nyumba.
We'll see. Huh? Ati? Oh my cost.
So hiyo ndio mibaraka ya Kisii.
Gani? Oh, naona mvua iko mingi kabisa.
Hiyo mibaraka ya Kisii.
Oh.
You can see ni mvua tu hapa.
Okay. Yeah. Naona huyo ni mzuri. Kwani uko nje?
Hapana.
Oh. Okay, sawa basi.
Niko na kamera ya kufix.
Ya kuonyesha uko nje. Okay, good. Yeah. Now I think boys are almost there. Mwana ameshafika 20. So anybody who is not attending the class, it is assumed that student gets 99%. So utakuja na ninio. I'm still waiting for your result. And be out. So take these lessons very seriously. I can even see the Abdurrahman is there. Abdurrahman is the mansi yake imekuwa mzuri, but he's doing well. So I think now, Ryan, how are you? Ryan, ako kwa forest na ameweka nini pale? Okay. Arnold Kipkomoy, how are you?
Answer.
Waidhaka Joe, audio imekuwa sawa ama imepotea? Bado?
Mimi niko sawa.
Nasema kuna kijana anaitwa Waidhaka.
Oh, huyo ni Waidhaka.
But bana ameninio.
Keep
angan. Kidoga Max, how are you? Kidoga Max. Tadila nyinyi kabisa. Nyaga Chiama, how are you?
I am fine.
Okay. Rafael Owendo?
I'm fine.
Abdurrahman?
Yes.
Yes. Machogo? Machogo?
Yes.
Yes. Obara?
Yes, I'm here.
Obara. I'm just identifying those people, those animals who are just here and they are not active in class. Nyakiomo Muraguri?
I'm fine.
Nyachio Victor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Moro Victor Derito, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Emale Desert. So,
I'm fine.
why is that you are not attending classes, by the way, Desert?
I've been attending.
No, you have not been attending. Did you see my missed call and you never picked or even sent a message? That's the last one.
I've attended from last week.
Quarter to 10, you missed a class. What was the issue? If I don't know. So, can you make sure that you're in class? Naelewana, Desert? Yes, thank you, Mchezo. My colleagues, how are you?
My colleagues?
My colleagues pia hayuko na Ryan. Ryan hayuko kwa darasa, hapo kwa forest. Lakini ameweka nini?
Niko.
Okay. Call the links uko nini? Ryan ndio anatafuta. Ryan has not responded na hata itiki. Ako wapi? Tutawapata tu. Joshua Mageto, I can see you. And Obara pia ni mwingine pia yuko kwa class. Okay. Over to you, Enoch. Enjoy your mathematics lesson. I'll just be in the background listening.
Okay, thank you.
And in a very Katangara Maybe you can just have a talk with them as we wait for 220.
Yeah, the boys, you given a list of topics that you wanted us to cover. I have a list of those topics at the side chart, where someone's talked of area of a pyramid and frustum, talked of reciprocal, similarity and congruence that connects with reflection. We also have trigonometry, gradient, and equation of straight lines. Those are a few of the topics that I was able to pick from the chat on WhatsApp. Therefore, I have decided to begin with reciprocals. So we are beginning with reciprocals for this lesson. And I believe that you're going to pick the essential points so that you are able to go through the mathematical problems dealing with reciprocals. Perhaps if there is one other topic that you want included, you can list it on the side chat where everyone is able to see. Once you are sending the message, make sure it's sent to everyone so that we are all able to see the list and harmonize it. So far, we are 30 now. We hope that others are joining. And note that I ignored indices because last holiday we dealt with indices. During the Corona period, we talked about indices, so I didn't list it there. We are 31 now. So 30 of you have, 29, I think 29 of you have joined.
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Yes.
Let me see. Let me check on my settings here whether my volume is okay on the microphone.
We can hear you.
Okay. Someone has talked about equation of a line. That is okay. Kiplagat Meli, can you hear me? Kiplagat Meli, can you hear me? Where is Kiplagat? I can see Kiplagat Meli. Can you hear me? Okay, I've seen your message. We have 2 minutes before we set off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
How long will the lesson last?
We are doing it for 1 hour, 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So by 4 p.m. we should be done. One minute before we start off. I think we are good to go. So good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to our remedial lesson, our first remedial lesson. My name is Enoch Oyoka, and I'll take you through mathematics. So we are going to handle reciprocals in our lesson today. I hope everyone is able to view that.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's pick off and inform one about fractions. You hear me?
You're breaking.
No.
No, we cannot hear.
Yes, we can't hear you.
I'm a freeze. He has already broken.
I think we are back.
Yes.
Okay. So as I was saying, in Form 1, we learned about fractions. And I want to believe that in your discourse, you brought in the concept of reciprocals, because it also applies when dividing or doing division of fractions. But in Form 2, we get a new concept, and that is what we are going to unpack for this lesson. What you learned in Form 1 was that when the product of two numbers is equal to 1, such numbers are called reciprocals of each other. An example is 1/7 and 7. 1/7 and 7 are reciprocals. Don't worry, we have power loss here. So that's why things have been the way you have seen there. So 1/7 and 7 are reciprocals of each other. And this is because 1/7 multiplied by 7 equals to 1. Another example is this, 2 over 3 and 3 over 2. They are also reciprocals of each other. The reason is that 2 over 3 multiplied by 3 over 2 equals to 1. In short, what are we saying? Is that the reciprocal of a number x is equal to 1 over x. I want to take you back to the previous slide. You look at 7, 1 over 7, the reciprocal of 1 over 7 is 7. That also means that the reciprocal of 7 is 1 over 7. That's why we are saying that the reciprocal of a number x is 1 over x. So the reciprocal of 7 is 1 over 7. That of 1 over 7 is 7. The same case applies to 2 over 3 and 3 over 2. They are reciprocals of each other. So 1 is the reciprocal of the other. That means that the reciprocal of 2 over 3 is 3 over 2, and the reciprocal of 3 over 2 is 2 over 3. What simply is done is that for a fraction a over b, its reciprocal is b over a. That's why you are seeing the reciprocal of 2 over 3 is 3 over 2 and vice versa. So I take you to the slide that we were in. How to find reciprocals? There are majorly two ways of finding reciprocals. One is by doing the long division method, whereby if I give you 2 over 3, you carry out the normal division method, whereby you divide 2 by 3. You know how we do it. Have a 0, take a decimal point, and such like, blah, blah, blah. But this is a very tedious way of finding reciprocals. The division method is very tedious. We can have a quicker way whereby we use the table of reciprocals in order to find the values almost instantly. And what happens with the table of reciprocals is that it is going to provide reciprocals of numbers between 1 and less than 10. So meaning that the table of reciprocals gives us reciprocals of numbers from 1.000 to 9.999. And you can see from what I have written that I have these digits to 4 significant figures, because that is what the table of reciprocals provides us with. We are able to read out the reciprocals of numbers only up to the 4th significant figure. But what if the reciprocal of this number is something that is not captured within the limits that we've talked about? For example, for numbers that are less than 10 or they are greater than 1, what shall we do? In this case, we shall first express the number in standard form and then proceed to use the table of reciprocals. Give me a second, I need to do some lighting. So stima imepotea huku, lakini we have an external source, so we can do with that. Okay. For the table of reciprocals, as earlier said, provides us with reciprocals of numbers from 1.000 to 9.999. If anything is outside that range, we first express it to standard form and then work it out. Then next to our next slide, we we need to know how the table of reciprocals looks like. That is how the table of reciprocals looks like. And we are going to know the various parts of this table. One, we have the column headed X. You can see it.
Yes.
We have the column headed X. Then we have the main column that is headed from 0 to 9. Then over on the other side, we have the mean differences column headed 1 to 9. So we have 10 columns headed 0 to 9. Then we have 9 columns that are headed 1 to 9. We call that the main differences column. And one thing that we note from the main differences column is that whatever value that we shall read from those columns, we shall work out a subtraction. That's why you see at the top, we have subtract. An example is for a row for 6.0. So as you can see, we have a row for 6.0. On the X column, we read the 6.0. Then all the other stuff shall be read from the main column and the mean differences column. We shall know what to do with the values in those columns. But something that we also need to note, if you look at 6.0, under 0 in the main column, we have 0.1667. If you cannot see what I'm displaying on the screen, I think you have your mathematical table. So 6.0 on the column headed X, and then under 0 on the main column, you have 0.1667, which is not the case if you look at what we have on the other columns, 1 to 9, because the next column now begins with 1664, 1661, and so on and so forth. Something is assumed. Anytime you read reciprocals, they should always begin with 0 points. So whenever we'll want to read a value from the other columns, we shall always begin with 0 points. So if that is well said, let's move to our first example, which shall require the use of mathematical tables. Someone has exclaimed, so there's something you'd not captured well. I go back. 6.0 under 0 starts as 0.1667. All the other values in the main column are not beginning with 0 points. The knowledge is assumed. So if you want to read, for example, on the main column 5, we have the value 1653. You shall read that as 0.1653. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay. Let's move to our first example. We are going to use our table of reciprocals in order to find the reciprocals of each of the following. So the first example, I would like, if you're not speaking, you mute, unless you know that your background is silent. So I can see most of you, your mics are on, and some of them are bringing some interference. So let's unmute only when we are talking. Very well. I can still hear some noise. Okay. 6.0. 6.0 is only a two significant figure. How do we read out the reciprocal of 6.0? One, the two digits, the 6 and the 0. So it's just 6.0. We go to the row that bears 6.0, of which we read the 6.0 on the column headed X. You can locate that. I've done a screenshot of the same. We have the row 6 outlined for us over on the screen. So usually the first two digits during our lesson, the first two digits in finding reciprocals are always read from the column headed X. And if that is all you have to do, your result will be found from the main column headed 0. So like now we have 6.0, you locate 6.0 on the column headed X, so you have it there. After that, that is all you had to solve. That means then you are going to read out your answer from the column, the main column headed 0. So this is what our result will be. And since we said that the reciprocal of a number X is 1 over X, therefore 1 over 6.0 will be equal to 0.1667. The same case applies if you are given a whole number. For example, if I give you a whole number 5, you will read out the reciprocal of 5 from the column headed X, locate 5.0, and read out the value under 0. And because you are using mathematical tables, you'll always give the answer to 4 significant figures. And I think if you read out from your mathematical table, you find 0.2000.
Yes.
And that is how you are supposed to give it if you are asked to use a mathematical table. So mahali ukora itajulikana ni wakati utaandika 0.2, because the mathematical table clearly does not give you 0.2, it gives you 0.2000. So be keen on such questions. Our second example, 6.04. 6.04. Let us highlight the things that we need to do.
0.1656.
6.04. Someone? Carlton, you are
0.1656.
0.1656, that is correct. So let's go through what Carlton has done. The first two digits are read out in the column headed X. So from 6.04, 6.0 is read on the column headed X. Because someone has his microphone on and it's really making noise. Tafadhali. Yeah, only unmute please when it's necessary to do so for our ease of the lesson. So 6.04, you read out 6.0 from the column headed X, and you can see it there. Then so the main column headed 4 will be of interest to us. So you see, you have 6.0 on the column headed X, and then the Carlton, I think there is a lot of noise from your end. Carlton? Yeah, there's a lot of noise from your end. I don't know what the problem could be. Over to our next example, 6.056. 6.056. Read out or locate the column headed 6.0, the row headed 6.0. So you have our 6.0 there. Then the main column headed 5, you have a value 1653. Then to the main differences column, the column headed 6 in the mean differences, we have the value 2. So I want all of you to note what we've done. 6.0, you read out 6.0 on the column headed X. Then the 5, you go to the column headed 5, and then 6 to the mean differences column headed 6. That is basically what we do. That is why I've circled those 4 so that you are able to see what we are doing. So 6.0 under 5, we read the value 1653. Remember, our assumption is that all these things should begin with 0. All the values in the main column here should begin with 0 points. Therefore, we have 0.1653, and then we read 2 from the mean differences column, and the value read from the mean differences column, we are going to do a subtraction as follows. So from 6.0 under 5, we have 0.1653. Then from the mean differences column headed 6, we have the value 2. We always, for reciprocals, we shall always subtract the value that we read from the mean differences. And it's subtracted at the farthest right. That is why I have transformed it to 0.0002 so that we are able to subtract it in line with 3 that was read from 0.1653. And that gives us 0.1651. Any problem there? So always remember to subtract from the mean differences column when dealing with reciprocals, unlike maybe cubes and cube roots and squares and square roots. Here we shall do subtraction. Then in the next example, 6.0316. There's something different about this one, because remember, you shall read 6.0 from the column headed X. Then 3 on the main column headed 3. 1 mean differences column headed 1. But you shall have no place to read out 6. So the first thing that we do in this is to first do a rounding off. We shall round off and have it as 6.032. So we are going to find the reciprocal of 6.032. And the reason why we are doing this is because what the mathematical table is able to provide for us are reciprocals up to the 4th significant figure. That's why we have rounded off these to 4 significant figures to give us 6.032. Then we go back to our mathematical tables, read out 6.0 on the column headed X. So we are dealing with that row. Then 3 under the main column. Then next, we have 2 the mean differences column. So you can see the values that we need to have. So from 6.03, we have 0.1658. And then from the mean differences column 2, we have the value 1. So can someone give us an answer for that?
The answer is
0.1567.
0.16557. Yeah, that is okay. So very quickly,